First, we're going to hand out these packages to you guys, which is basically slight brief history, which is going to start with this slide. This is basically what this handout entails. Is basically the first decade of their work and the major points. Like they released a little news report, like a little mission statement about how they, like when they looked back on the first decade of themselves, and they had it in their own like little newspaper thing. But I kind of got that, photocopied it, and cut it up so it's more easy to read. Okay. Yeah, and then there's tons and tons of pictures that I'm going to pass around as I go about doing that. But I really don't want to focus very much on history because that's fun. I'll tell you guys how to get a job. Okay, cool. So
I'm liking this already.
It's very, very, very easy. So, like, forward, it's basically just very simple as everything. They have the home, which is basically their season that they're just doing. They just finished doing a run of the Full Monty, which was incredibly successful. It was one of their few shows that sold out the whole house. They release their season. They pick it usually in April, and that's usually when they get most of the resumes, and that's how they choose which season that they're doing. So they'll just have this, and they'll have actor bios if you're really interested about seeing who's in each show. Box office, if you want to get a hold of them, tells you how many seats they have. They have just under 300 seats there. It's 287, I believe, and this basically tells you everything that they have to offer. And with their slight histories right here, but I picked it off a different one. One thing that's kind of interesting that I've noticed a lot of artistic directors have been doing right now is they keep blogs on the website telling you what's going on in the theater up to date, like from their perspective, which I find is really helpful because you kind of have an insight on where they're coming from because you actually get to see what they think about it. Even though it's usually a professional word, not too personal, it still gives you an idea of what they're up to, what they're doing, where they're off to. Well, during my correspondence with them, I never actually got to talk with the like in person with the artistic director of right now, who is David Savoy, because he's gone to some PAC meeting. But I'm going to start with telling you how I originally started thinking about starting this thing. Yeah, so I'm just going to start from the beginning where I started. So my main idea of what I wanted to do with this seminar is I wanted to find exactly what an actor does to get a job, like right out of high school. Say if you didn't even go to college, you didn't finish a repertory program, how to get a job just as an unknown actor going into the professional world. And that was my perspective going into this, and I think I answered a lot of the questions that I had about it. It was really useful. So this is what it means. I started off just saying, hello David, I'm a theater student currently enrolled at the Canada College Theatre Arts program, and I've given out the task of giving a seminar about the Sudbury Theatre Centre. Blah, 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 blah. No, that's useless. Okay, yeah. How do I go from an unknown actor to gracing the Sudbury Theatre Centre? And I just was hoping, and he actually responded to me later that day that I sent this email out, so very prompt, very useful. All the people there are incredibly accommodating to anything. If you have further questions, contact them. They will be more than happy to help you out. They're incredibly helpful. And just from me asking him, how do I go from this and this, this was his answer. Hi Scott, I'm actually en route to Cowhead, Newfoundland for the annual PACT meeting. I would be happy to answer any questions, though it may take me a day or two to get back to you. But a really short answer to the question of how to become a star at STC. Be really good at what you do, learn your craft, take chances, and be imaginative. Play the widest variety of roles you can. Spend the money on really good pictures. Bad pictures could mean directors won't even turn them over to look at your resume. Write a good letter. Do your research, know what sort of plays STC does. I always say you should approach auditions like a blind date. What would you do to make sure you got the second date? Be interesting, be interested. Pick good pieces, and not pieces you find in an audition book. You're not the only person who bought the book, therefore there will be many more people doing your perfect piece. Read plays, see plays, be passionate, be pleasant. Don't underestimate the value of being pleasant. And that's how he started, and that's about all the correspondence I actually got with David Savoy, because he was out of town most of the way. But the general manager there, Judy Stratham, was more
Strong.
I didn't know how to pronounce it, but Judy Stratham.
Yep.
Yeah, strong. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to where they came from. So a brief history of the Sudbury Arts Theatre is they started out in 1967 just as a really passionate group of people in the community that really wanted to create a theatre. So, but what really gave them the opportunity to do that was there was a study also in 1967 about where a theatre could be maintained and be successful. And through this cross-Canadian study, they found that Sudbury would be a really great candidate to do that. So after doing that, and there was already the passion and a group there interested in doing it, it was formed. Like, they just formed a group. They didn't have a home, they didn't have a building yet, they just started kind of from scratch. Luckily, it was possible to do it there because in the community there's the means to keep it, because there's a university, there's a hospital, there's huge building centers, so it's possible to go there, and there's work there. There's the mine. There's always people there. That there's room for a theater in that place. So that was incredibly useful. So they started off just kind of playing. You can read off your sheets. It says it gives you the brief history. I'm just going through it really quickly. If you want to learn more, read the package I gave you. But so basically, they started off that's just working in clubs and at the university theater without really having a home or anything to do with that. So, and after they were there for a good six, 7 years before they were kicked out of the Inco Club. The Inco Club is where they had their first home, was there, and then they kind of moved to the university theater and were kind of lost. And then after like about a 7 or 8 year stint there, the Inco Club wanted their club back. They had stuff to use. They needed it for functions and fundraisers and things like that. So they needed to find a permanent home. They realized they needed to find a permanent home. And through some government grants and some really, really great luck, the town of Sudbury donated a lot to them for $1 on Shaughnessy Street. Shaughnessy Street is, so they bought this land, they got the grants, they got the corporate backing, they got the fundraisers to make this a possibility, and just with that extra boost of Sudbury giving them this beautiful piece of land right downtown Sudbury for $1 just made it all possible. So as it goes through time, it was smaller, it got bigger. It started off just with about 100 seats or so, and then they just kept expanding and moving it forward, and it just turned out to work out really awesomely. But luckily, the reason why it survived so well is because in its original design, it really covered all the bases to last without even knowing it. Because this building, it was constructed with I'm not sure how to say it, a fly bar. What's it called? Like for flies to go up and down. What's that called?
Like a fly gallery.
Yeah, they have a fly gallery there, and that's basically unheard of in such a small theater. So it just really makes it possible to really go for all their imaginings there. And how the Sudbury Theatre Center works. Oh yeah, we went back to history, sorry. And then when they finally had to move on and make their own building, they joined forces with the Griffin Theatre Troupe that originated in Barrie. Yeah, and together they hammered out some great shows, and then they ended up melding together and forming what is now the Sudbury Theatre Center. Yeah. Yeah. So basically I'm going to move on now to what they offer there. There is a main stage company with stock actors that are actually, there's an English troupe, a French troupe, a youngish company which is actually non-equity. The main stage is completely equity with the odd non-equity member, because I'm not sure the ratio of however it goes. I think it's like 10 to 1, 8 to 1.
Equity, it's sort of 8 to 1.
Yeah, 8 to 1, that's what I
Equity,
thought.
you're allowed one non-equity.
Yeah, so for every 8 actors, there's only 1 non-equity actor, so there is opportunity there for that, but it's going to be much harder to get there. But with that in mind, this being a very community-minded theater, they eventually, in the year, in 1976, they started the Young-ish Company, which is for younger actors and non-equity actors. It is still paid work. It is still paid work, but not the same as it would be for being on the main stage and being equity, obviously. So there is opportunity for that. Actually, Andrea Solsky, a former grad of here, has worked with them already, and I've heard that she is trying to get in to be an apprentice there as well. So it's possible it can happen to any of us. Someone that's coming from where we has already gone there. So that's really awesome. And they offer classes, like acting classes for adults. They've got an even younger company for high school students to give them opportunities to go to put it onto a real stage and really push it out there. And even going farther than that, there's been outreach projects. They had the Rainbow Theater, which was one of the first outreaches into the Manitoulin Islands, and they touched there. So they've really gone the extra mile for that. Basically, this theater is mostly a winter theater more so than a summer theater. It does do both, but it tends to rely more on its winter season for its subscriptions, and because it's not a profit theater, it's not for profit. They run off of a subscription base, corporate backing, and tons of fundraisers. They're very big on fundraisers. They host an annual dinner auction, which is the biggest one in the Sudbury region. Every 2 years they get the Sudbury celebrities to do a big musical number for charity. They've hosted an indoor golf tournament inside of their theater and haunted houses, lots of stuff. They're very, very big about that. But going back to their beginnings, when they first started, it was very much not for Canada, but as was most theaters at that time, it wasn't really accessed. That nobody really wanted to look for Canadian works and Canadian playwrights. So when their first artistic director, Tony Lloyd, was from England. So that was their first thing, and I'm going to pass this around right now because these are just some pictures from their first 10 seasons and like what kind of shows they did. So I'm just going to kind of throw these to pass them around. So like the first edit, I had to cut up because I photocopied a piece of paper. I photocopied the newspapers just so you can see them. And if you want to know which season it is, it's written on the back. So this one's 72 to 73. It's got The Little Hut, Last of the Red Hot Lovers, probably the one that you'll recognize the most. The Man Became Thinner, Staircase, Leaving Home, Boing Boing, Love Ride for Rails. But they've hit a really wide selection of theaters, so it was tricky for me and when I was talking with them to truly figure out what their thing is. But what I did gather was that she said that they're mostly a winter company, and like the winter seasons, like their main season, and that consists of more edgy theater in the winter season, because people are stuck in their house. They're more inclined to want to go out for a spectacle like that, and this is when they like to push the envelope in more interesting places.
They do only one wrist show.
They do only one what?
Only one wrist show, and they do their wrist show in the winter season, only runs for a week and a half.
Yeah, all their shows run for a week.
No, the others run for 3.
Really?
Yes.
They said 2 weeks.
Because they're their commercial properties, but they do like a week and a half wrist show in the winter, because usually their audience, they understand is a commercial fair, so that they have to keep their stuff popular to the general audience.
Yeah.
So they can't afford to lose money on I don't know what they call an art piece, right?
Yeah, exactly. This year's from this season's one that I would say would probably be that show is they did Doubt, which some of you might have seen. and it was very successful here. But like through time, they've gone to more Canadian theater, because like last season there was I think two. Yeah, there were two Canadian ones. This was their last season that's just finished. I'm actually going to show you a video from one of their shows, The Flying Bandit, which is a one-man show, and just basically on how he constructed it. I'm not going to play it for very long because it's just to give you a taste. See, they haven't really much.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Price, and I am the playwright and director for The Flying Bandit.
And I play The Flying Bandit along with many other characters.
They've just kind of just moved on to the video medium on their website. So most of the advertisements are about 30 seconds long. This is one of the longer ones, just describing the one-man show. Because this one-man show, he played about 26 characters, and they were all different, and they just kind of explain how they approach that. And you'll see that he says they approached it from a physicality point of view, and then to establish character. But basically, when you're going to send in your resumes and your headshots to them is in April to the middle of May is when they usually get their huge stack of resumes and headshots. And why that's important to do that then is because it's about that month or the month after that they release the next season, and they use that stack of resumes to see who they're interested in, and in turn to decide which shows to do. Because with their budget, what they have is they basically have about 30 to 35 paid actors per season. And that's it. That's it. And because this season, the full Monty was a larger cast, it was like 15 people. That's why it was facilitated for this season to have a one-man show. Just to fill it out so that they could make the ends meet. In the summer, they always do a big musical and more lighthearted comedies, because that brings more people in, and that's what people are going to come see, that kind of stuff. So that's really cool. But one thing that's really exciting is this coming season. That is usually they'll do say about 2 out of their 6 shows will be Canadian, but in the next season, actually 4 of the 6 are going to be all.
What is their next season, Scott?
Yeah. What?
What is their next season?
The next season I was going to pass it around. I got it for sure. They're doing Moonlight Magnolias by Ron Hutchison, American. Vigil by Morris Panic, who you'll probably know more from 7 Stories. Skin Flick by Norman Foster's, who's a really important Canadian one. I Had a Job I Liked Once by Guy Vanderhagen. With Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, which is actually a really, really great show. I got to see it at the Albany Theater. Really lighthearted, good comedy musical, really fun. And their artistic director is writing an adaptation of Alice in Wonderland, so David Savoy's doing that. So that's really exciting. I'm going to pass that around. I put a check mark besides all the Canadian ones. Pass that around. That'll work. Yeah, and I'll pass this around too, because this is the program from the Full Monty. Was just broke some records for being sold out every single show. Pretty much the only shows that are going to sell out the theater are going to be their big ticket musicals. That's what sells out shows. And in my experience, it seems to be that across the board. Like that sells for people. So, yeah. So with their huge stack of resumes that they're going to get in April, middle of May, April to middle of May, they're going to take all those photos, and that's how they're going to determine the next season. And usually the auditions will come for the previous season, usually in like November, December. But for the Youngish Company, the coming Youngish Companies, they're going to take 5 actors, and they're doing the Velveteen Rabbit. And the auditions for that are probably going to be December 7th and 8th. So that's pretty exciting. Considering it's a stock theater troupe, they don't say like the Capitol Center, like a touring musical or a touring play or any show will just come in, set up for a few days and keep going. But that does not happen at the Sudbury Theater Center, because they like everything to be personal and fit to their stage and personalized to their theater and their experience. So they won't let a touring show just come in, set up, play, and leave. If you want, you can. It is accessible and rentable. So if you do have a show, you can put it up there. It is possible, although the stage is mainly reserved for their stock shows that they have each year. But like you'll get some time slots probably around Christmas-ish, and like when there's like little drags and like little like that. What else? So they kind of go all over the map when it comes to shows. They do adaptations. They do lighthearted musicals. They do light comedies. They go for the serious drama. So they're not any specific style of theater. So it kind of goes across the board in that facility. What else?
You wonder that's been 25 minutes.
Really?
Wow.
I have way too much info.
It's like, so it's, we're sure it's like condensed into your presentation.
I did condense it.
So, I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a summer season and a winter season?
One's in the summer and one's in the winter.
Oh.
The winter season, they say winter is a production that runs from September till May.
Okay.
You have a 5
But
or 6
like-
show season, and the summer season runs from June till after Labor Day.
Does that does the season decide what shows they're playing, or?
Yeah, if you're doing a summer season, you're primarily doing the summer stock season, so you're doing all pretty much light commercial fare.
Oh, okay.
Unless you're like Stratford or Shaw, right?
Hmm.
Right? And it's geared towards summer tourists, cottages and like cottagers.
Okay.
The winter season is more traditional regional